Chapter 6 takes us back to the dysfunctional Trask family, where we see all three Trask boys in their different pursuits. First of all, Charles. Charles is literally dirty. He's living in a greasy kitchen where the grease from the pans has gotten all over the counters, the ceilings, the walls. No one there to clean it. The best he can do is sweep up. He can never take out the spots, the dirtiness. His kitchen isn't the only thing that's dirty. His body is dirty. The only time he ironically cleans up is when he's going to see the prostitutes a couple times a month. Prostitutes, by the way, who are a very well organized group of prostitutes and themselves are beaten and mistreated. His diet is so bad, full of meat, that he's in a permanent state of indigestion. And so Charles just seems to be a disgusting creature. And the end of the chapter tells us that he's taken to living in a shed because it's just easier. So he's almost descended into subhuman characteristics, which is funny because when we met him back in chapter 3, from Adam's point of view, he saw his brother Charles as a different species as him. And so Charles seems to be living up to that bill, almost living an animal-like existence. So he can write a good game about finding a wife, but in reality, from the author, from the narrator's point of view, that Charles can talk a good game, but he's actually quite shy with the ladies. So what he is up for is a prostitute where he can buy love, quote-unquote love, but he's not really up for a real relationship of love. Superficially, it seems that Charles misses Adam, but it's not the loving missing of a family like the Hamiltons. It's the I need you missing of a family like the Trask. So in a dysfunctional family, people can miss each other, according to this book, but it's different. One is a needy black hole suckage kind of missing, and one is a I love you kind of missing. And in the Trask family, on both scores of Charles and Cyrus, it seems to be the first kind. I miss you because I want something from you, or I need you, I don't have anyone else. A desperate longing kind of missing, not an I love you kind of missing. So for that reason, and I'm sure many more, including their history together, Adam doesn't really feel like going home when his time of service at the army is completed. He doesn't go directly home, but rather wanders around and eventually finds his way to Niagara Falls, where he's entranced. He's hypnotized by the falls. So wanting human connection, or at least a counterfeit human connection, Adam goes to a bar just to physically be around people, and he meets the barkeeper, and even the barkeeper who is imprisoned there, has to talk to Adam. He has a mark on his forehead, and the mark looks like a cat, and so that's his nickname, Cat. So he's marked out like Cain in the Bible, and his nickname starts with C. And just like Charles, his brother, who angry day on the farm, moving rocks, and he sustained an injury, and not only does he have a mark on his forehead, but this mark is discolored, which causes even more attention to it because it contrasts with the color of his skin, and that leads to Charles being even more alienated from society because of the mark on his forehead stands out. And Charles himself, in a letter to Adam, contrasts his mark with a Christian cross, and he says he'd look like a papist on Ash Wednesday if he had the other side of the marking. And so he definitely has the mark of Cain, and now Adam is meeting in real life a bartender also with the C name, Cat, with a mark on his forehead. Adam brings it up, and this man, Cat, this barkeep Cat, he didn't get it from an injury, growing impatient with big boulders on his property. Rather, he was born that way. So Adam does not go home, even though he tells Charles he is going to come home after his military service is up. Doesn't seem like that was a lie. Seems like Adam rather just changed his mind at the real life prospect of being back home alone with his brother Charles. So rather, he re-ups, he rejoins, he recommits for another 5 years in the military. Why? Because he loved it so much? No, he didn't love it, but simply he got used to it. And so we have some Stockholm syndrome or something like that. But on the way out west, he's waiting in St. Louis for a train change, and he gets letters to go to Washington, D.C., where he sees his father living a parallel life with Charles. On the professional plane, Charles is a good farmer, and the people in the community, the people in the village, can't deny that the farm has never looked better. But every other aspect of Charles's life is just loneliness and animal-like behavior. Similarly, Cyrus is doing great career-wise, and maybe Steinbeck is saying east of Eden, good things happen to bad people like Charles and Cyrus. And so career-wise, they're doing just fine. But Cyrus is a phony, and Adam spots that immediately, and he is blown away. Adam is aghast at the respect and reverence and decency with which people treat his father. And he just smells something to high heaven. Something isn't right. Do they know who they're talking to? And so Adam has a difficult time seeing how other people treat his old man, knowing his old man. Speaking of his old man, Cyrus pulls the angry, controlling father bit and wants him to go to West Point. He's got plans for Adam. Even though Charles would have been a perfect candidate to be in the army and have the opportunity to go to West Point, Cyrus instead tries to manipulate and control Adam by being in charge of his future and telling him what to do. So if you remember in the previous chapter, in kind of a wry, witty way, Steinbeck introduced us to the 9 Hamilton kids and talked about how worthless Joe was on the farm. And because Joe was worthless on the farm, that Samuel saw fit to send him off to college to be an academic, and eventually he got in the field of advertising. And so this is a contrast with how Cyrus deals with Adam. What happens in the Hamilton family? Joe is no good on the farm. So a loving, sensitive father sees that Joe is no good at manual labor and makes a way for him to have a good life because he loves him. And that's what a good, normal, loving father might do. But a controlling, jerk, C-named father like Cyrus rather uses the opportunity not to benefit one son, Charles, but to control the other son, Adam. And so Adam doesn't want to go home and be with his brother Charles, and now doesn't want to follow his father's orders, and has this coming of age moment where he defies his father and says he will not go to West Point, but rather re-up and continue with his plans for his life. So all in all, the chapter shows us a stark contrast to the loving Hamilton household of the previous chapter, and even the house itself was this warm place full of lean-tos, but everyone's together, and for the most part, at least 8 of the 9 kids getting along with their parents, contrasted in this chapter with the 3 Trask men living lives of pointless wandering in Adam's case, or lonely work in Charles and Cyrus's case. And so the Trask family is really just a tale of sadness. And though Adam is our main character and much more likable than Charles and Cyrus at this stage of his life, just wandering around in the country and re-upping for military service just because he can't think of anything better to do is hardly an ideal life for